Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Tran, 11 days away from product launch, Texas, Louisiana. I can't wait, man. I'm getting excited, brother. How about you? How about yourself?
It's slowly moving for me. It's taking
Slowly.
forever. I'm watching all the games for the top 25 games from ESPN from last year.
I've been checking those out too.
Except I turned on the TV one day and it was the Iowa State versus Texas. I turned it right off. Nope. Don't you bring that devil TV in my home.
No. So we're gonna kind of go bad news, good news, and how we release this. It's how we typically do. But those of you who are familiar with our season series and our seasonal previews that we do, after we do our breakout players, we typically like to go into our concerns and what we're super excited about in terms of strengths, right? Right now, at this point in the year, I say this even coming out of spring, there's strengths and opportunities. There's no weaknesses. So what we're going to touch on first, though, is the concerns that we have. Concerns, question marks, not necessarily saying these things are weaknesses, but we want to see more. And this is something that we think will be a big point of whether we have a good season or not, or the season that we expect to have. So we're going to do our 5 biggest concerns. As we get into that, y'all know attendance. Hit that like button. Subscribe. We appreciate the momentum of the channel. We're expecting to have a big season of growth with you guys coming on board, following Texas content. Hopefully, as we continue to do well or start to do well as a football team under Steve Sarkisian, our channel, our platform can grow as well within the Texas football community. So, Tran, let's just jump into it, brother.
Let's do it.
You know, our 5 biggest concerns for the 2021 season. I think we just set the stage of kind of the parameters. So it could be anything. And number 5, I'll start with number 5. We'll kind of count up. I wouldn't necessarily say, Tran, would you say that there's one more important? We just kind of ranked them, but like, are they, we'll get into it. Anyway, Tran, I'll pass it over to you. We have the safeties on here. Why are we concerned about the safeties? I feel like overall we feel pretty good about this defense, but why are the safeties on this list?
So to me, honestly, this is a good problem to have. This was us reaching for things, honestly, because we were up to 4 things and we were trying to think through, and it came down to safeties. We're replacing 2 starters, Chris Brown, Caden Stearns. Yes, Caden left the last 2 games of the year, so we did get some experience there. However, it's hard to replicate that, especially 2 people who are in the NFL right now. It's hard to just replenish that talent and just throw them in there and expect them to be as productive as Caden and Chris were. The good thing is that they have that defensive front in front of them to make their lives a little bit easier. So to help that transition a little bit better. But that to me is why I think it may be a cause for pause for us to be excited about the safeties.
So, Tran, you and I did a guest spot, and we're going to give a shout out to the Fire Steve Sarkisian podcast on Horns Cast, which is satire, by the way.
Yes.
Shout out to Josh and Noah. But on there, we were asked about like scorching hot takes, things of that sort. And I said then, this was before spring ball started. I said Brennan Schooler would find his way into playing time. And here we are. He is now a projected starter at free safety. We know what his history was his freshman year at Oregon before he moved over to the offensive side of the ball, and how productive he was, at least statistically, while he was at Oregon when he played safety. The reason why I'm concerned on the flip side of that is that the fact that, yes, you lose a Caden Stearns, yes, you lose a Chris Brown, but they've recruited safety heavily going through the Tom Herman era. And the fact that he was able to move over to the room and get a job really
immediately,
immediately,
yes.
Is he that good? or are
He's
people in the
rangy.
room
He's rangy.
still? But
But
is he that good, or are people in the room still
yeah.
underdeveloped? Like what? Or is it a little bit of both? Right? Because for him to come up and get that job right away, like I threw that out there purposely, thinking like, this dude's super productive at Oregon, and he made a lot of plays, but I think he's going to compete. I didn't think he would just come out of spring outright with the job. Now, BJ Foster is manning, the strong safety position, whatever you want to position, but essentially a strong safety, right? And, for all intents and purposes, we'll see what looks they have under Terry Joseph and PK. If they go too high, if they run a lot of single high from everybody at the scrimmage, and some of the notes I've seen, they are running a lot of single high. But regardless, BJ Foster was as big a recruit as anybody we've had in this program back in 2018. We mentioned in our breakout video player list, we had him on the list before. BJ's battled injuries, BJ's battled inconsistencies. We know how talented he is. He has all the physical tools, and he fits the mold of a prototypical strong safety. But we have to see it over the course of an entire season.
Yeah.
I think we think of BJ Foster, there's a lot of highs and there's the lows, especially him walking off against UTEP. I think we've moved, everybody's collectively moved on. He made a mistake. The brother has been a good part of the team and had some good games last year, underrated. I thought he was one of our best players against OU, even with the injuries.
Yeah.
But do we have that consistency there? Tran, another guy in that room. And his backup, Tyler Owens.
Tyler Owens, yep.
When's the light bulb come on for him? Or is he only just going to be a track star big dude that's on special teams? Like, you remember all the noise about him moving to linebacker in the spring? Where'd that go? Like, he's back in the safety room, and you don't really hear his name like that. The other people, honestly, the people I hear more getting mixed in at safety, because I'm not including Nichols here, which is Anthony Cook and Jaron Thompson. I feel good about them.
Yeah.
But you're hearing that in base situations, they're getting reps at safety. So when you hear all these different names being mixed back and forth, I understand they're trying to cross-train people. But as you said, I think it's a cause for pause in terms of, like, should we be optimistic about what we're going to see? Big test for Blake Gideon. Big test, right? I think he's recruited well so far. Been doing a good job there, but can he get the best out of BJ Foster? Can we get anything out of Tyler Owens, JD Coffey, some of these other guys that are there? We'll see. Let's go number 4. Number 4, we're going to pivot to the head coach. I think we really like this staff. I think as a staff, I know Kyle Flood's a good offensive line coach. He's already proven that. I know PK is a great defensive coordinator.
Yep.
Proven. Steve Sarkisian as a head coach. Tran, I think you pulled up the number of what his overall record was. It 46-35?
Total 46-35. Yep.
As a head coach. So Steve Sarkisian, the play caller, I don't have any questions. Steve Sarkisian coaching quarterbacks, I don't have any questions. It's all the things that go into being a head coach. And this you can make the argument this might be number 1, right, in terms of concerns. But I'll pass it over to you, man. In terms of this one, why were you so concrete about having this as a question mark on the list?
Because something that we're extremely used to for the past couple of years is 7-6, 7-6, 7-6, 8-4. 5-7, those are his records at Washington. Yes, he was rebuilding a 0-13 Washington team, but at the same time, when he got his recruits in there, he went 8-4 and came in third in the Pacific Northwest. And also, when he took over USC, knocked it out the park with a 9-win season.
And recruited well. He had that Sam Darnold class, the Juju Smith-Schuster class, but then he had his personal issues and was removed.
Yep, and then it dropped to I think he was a 3-win coach the next year. A lot of people were saying that the 9-win team was from the previous staff as well. Is recruits from the previous staff that he coached up. So that's the huge thing. Like we've touched on the issues, the dependency issues that he's had when he was in USC and how he's learned from it. The things that I do like hearing is the fact that he is going to he's going to be a offensive coordinator technically, but he is going to handle the major CEO aspect of a head coach position. So hopefully that's where he's learned from the best, the Pete Carrolls and also the Nick Sabans of the world.
Absolutely. And knowing when you have to have your secret sauce there, to your point about Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, and then when you have to also develop your staff and develop your coaches, I think he said all the right things. I know I had a tease video about some of the terminology he used that was similar to Tom Herman at the Big 12 Media Day, but those are all jokes, right? Like in terms of what we expect from our head coach, I think he's very likable. The charisma's there. He brings a very sexy looking offense to the table. And I think, just across the street in our conference, Lincoln Riley, who's able to juggle both of those duties. Now, I will argue the pressures within this bubble of Texas is different. Even in what OU, and OU is a pressure cooker itself. I get that. But like the expectations to bring Texas back to glory and all that comes into that, very similar to what he faced at USC, right? And I give a lot of credit to Quan Cosby in the group he has over there in their podcast. I was listening to it, and he mentioned people getting second chances and Sark using this second chance and also being able to relate to other guys on the team. We just talked about BJ Foster, much lesser degree. Joshua Moore getting a second chance, who's starting to come on. Like there's people. It's a part of life. So can he come forward as a more mature man, as a more seasoned man, and fulfill all of the potential we know that he has as a football coach and a leader of men? And can he do that under this umbrella that's Texas? I think there's a healthier environment here under Chris Del Conte. I don't feel like he's trying to carry the whole burden the way Tom Herman sometimes tried to do and isolating himself. But we got to see it. We got to see the product, and they've got to win football games. And I'm sorry, but you don't make the move you made to try to shoot for 8 or 9 wins. You're trying to get in the double digits. You're trying to get this is a win now situation.
Yeah, you're playing for a Big 12 championship. That's what you're playing. That's
for a
what
Big
you're
12
doing.
championship.
That's why you made that move. We've talked about the comparison between Doug Collins coaching the Bulls, went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they fired him for Phil. So
they fired him. That's one of the best analogies that anybody can use, right? Or even Scotty Brooks, or more recently the Toronto Raptors going from Dwayne Casey to Nick Nurse. And granted, yeah, they got Kawhi Leonard, and it's not always apples to apples, but that Bulls team was pretty much the same roster, right? And from 89-90 to 90-91, and when they finally broke through, you need those type of guys that understand how to win and compete at a championship level. Not to say that Tom Herman didn't. Tom Herman won a national championship as a coordinator, just like Steve Sarkisian won a national. So, was a Broyles winner, right? But it's that connection, and because Phil Jackson wasn't a proven commodity whatsoever. Phil Jackson was also an assistant coach on the Bulls staff when he got promoted, just like Nick Nurse was, right? So, but there's something that the higher ups or the people internally that understand the psychological aspect saw that said that guy can make the right moves and get us over the hump to where we want to go, right? I respect the fact that Steve Sarkisian walked through the door and said, not everything here is broken. I'm watching the tape. Y'all could have gone 5-5. Y'all could have gone undefeated.
Yep.
That's the margin we're working with. So let's win. Let's win. Number 3, kind of getting more back to some ball. So this one's a little nuanced because we're not saying the offensive line outright and we're not saying quarterback outright, but more so protection. Tran, how many times did Sam Ehlinger get sacked against OU the last two times we played them? Like 15, 16 times? These
It was
big
rough.
games,
It's
these big games, right? Where we struggle to protect our guys, drop back pass, and it's not always on the offensive line. Let me also get that. Sometimes the quarterback has to have a better clock, navigate the pocket better, be on time, all those type of things. Scheme will help. We just talked about Steve Sarkisian. But from a pass blocking standpoint, there's some really good rushers that we're going to face this year. And that to me is a concern. We're breaking in a new left tackle. We'll have a new right tackle. We have a new offensive line coach. We've heard about practice reports. This is a big concern for me, is pass blocking.
Yeah, until they prove that they can do it, it's huge for me as well. That's why you go out and get a Kyle Flood. That's why you go pay him and take him away from Alabama. You get him to develop this talent because we have talent. We have dogs on the line that could be as good as anyone, any other team out there from an offensive line perspective. Another thing is, since we're only touching on pass blocking, you're having a brand new quarterback breaking in, whether it's Casey Thompson or whether it's Hudson Card, which the reports are as of today that it's Hudson Card. But Hudson Card has maybe had 15 college passes. His internal clock may
three.
not. Yeah.
I think he's had 3 college passes.
Okay. 3 college passes.
And I would say the thing he struggles with the most, which is why we have starting quarterback on here, I would say probably the thing that Casey Thompson does better than Hudson Card at this point is avoiding sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one would argue, well, Casey trades the sacks for picks because he pushes the ball and gets the ball out. But Hudson Card, just from what I've seen, this goes back to high school and even now, especially when it's not the RPO stuff, because the RPO stuff is going to be boom, boom. But when it's like sit back and make a decision or being a little decisive, sometimes he will try to extend because he's trusting his arm. He can get the ball downfield. But as a young guy, that's something you got to get used to, especially a veteran quarterback playing with a younger offensive line that doesn't have much. Sometimes a veteran quarterback can get by with a bad line because he'll do some things to protect them. I don't know how nuanced Hudson Card is going to be coming in there right away as a brand new starter, being able to protect the offensive line if they're struggling with some one-on-ones, if that makes sense.
No, it makes tons of sense. And also, is he going to trust his line too? So a lot of the times when you see the young quarterbacks coming in there, they get the happy feet. When they hike the ball, they get pressured one time. You see them roll out the opposite way all the time. So, just making sure that they're holding there and listening to Kyle Flood and repping up and everything like that, and protecting Hudson Card or Casey Thompson that's a huge cause for concern for me.
Absolutely, and look, the reason why we're not listed because on the flip side to this, it's twofold. Surprise! The run blocking piece of this is gonna be on the 5 things we're excited about, right? And
Spoiler alert.
Their marriage. Spoiler alert. That's on the flip side, that's one of the things we're excited about in conjunction with just the overall run game, right? With the combination, like they know how to run block. I'm confident with them in that regard, regardless of who they have at guard in there, by the way. I think we have more than 5 people. I'm excited that they feel so strong about it as a new coaching staff to where they felt like they didn't need to take a grad transfer or any transfer, right? So there's some good things that we're hearing behind the scenes. Pass blocking, and this is going to lead me to number 2, because what's connected with the quarterback and the pass blocking, taking away the run game, right? Because the run game can help. If Bijan's running wild, then play action, then we ain't got to worry about some of the things we're talking about on a regular basis. But these receivers, who's going to be the man? Is it Joshua Moore? We really like Jordan Whittington. He just came back to practice today, but he was injured again.
And it was a
Troy
soft
O'Mari's
tissue injury
right,
as well, which
right. It's like, Tran, I like the parts. Like, who do you not like? I like Marcus Washington. Like, he was a big recruit, right? Like
Covante Dixon, I love.
Covante Dixon.
Yeah,
A lot of people think Xavier Worthy can
Woody.
be
Yep.
what Marvin Mims was last year, right? Like that, the guy that just comes in and freaking gets it. I like all these parts, but there is something to it when you saw the way that they played in the spring game, for a very small sample size. You hear the practice reports. Now, a few ways you can look at it. You can look at it from the standpoint of, well, Steve, Tran, they're not showing a whole lot behind the scenes. The scheme will take care of basically whoever's in there in a Sark scheme. Dude's going to be open, and they're not really doing the whole musical chairs. I will say this, though. If they're not consistent, that's going to cause problems for whoever's playing quarterback and that's offensive line that's not a strength of theirs in the pass blocking game, where I'm concerned that the passing game couldn't. There's times where we may not be humming the way we think we should be because of these consistency issues.
No, yeah, and definitely. So if these inconsistencies keep on happening, it makes our offense one dimensional, and it makes defenses allow them to focus on Mr. Number 5 constantly. So they load the box and make it more difficult on him, which also makes it more difficult on Hudson Card or Casey Thompson to actually find those one-on-ones and win those battles head on. You know, since it's been such a razor thin race, that's nothing that's a given that we're going to win those one-on-ones. So another thing is that we're hearing injuries, like we talked about Jordan Whittington with the soft tissue injury. That's a hamstring that he strains 5 days ago, and he's back in practice. Kind of worries me that it's going to get strained again. Troy
Especially
Romero,
with him
yes,
in
with him
particular.
specifically. Yes, Troy Romero. You know, a knee is. We talked about this earlier in a previous video that, you know, it's hard to get over the mental aspect of your body. You may be physically ready to do it, but he had knee surgery last year and he hurts his knee this year. You know, mentally, is he going to be there 100%? Is he going to be 100% the Troy Romero that we saw the videos of, the spectacular catches, things like that? So that's the thing that, you know.
Joshua Moore just came back.
Yeah.
Joshua Moore missed time. Now they said he balled out in the scrimmage, and I think he had 2 or 3 touchdowns, which is fantastic to hear. But he's had injury problems,
shoulder injuries, things. Yeah.
So, you know, when you start going down this list of names, and you know, I'm reading some of these reports saying, hey, don't be surprised if Kai Money's playing, and people get mad when they hear that name and all that. But they got to go with people that are out there, right? And so. Question.
And you gotta think of it too. Who's the only person? Take away Joshua Moore. Who else has honestly produced at a high level?
At a high level, proven. That's Joshua Moore.
It's Joshua Moore, and that's it. So, and you're throwing in a pretty in-depth a new playbook for a bunch of kids.
The next person, off the top of my head, would probably be Cade Brewer in the tight end room, right? Like. Because O'Mary hasn't played an actual college game yet. Jordan Whittington's played 6 games.
Yes.
Right? Worthy's a freshman. Calvante really didn't do much of anything until the Alamo Bowl. Marcus Washington has been very inconsistent. Although we like what we're hearing behind the scenes now that he really, really started to pick it up. And good. You know, good for Andre Coleman's a question mark too.
Xavier Worthy hasn't played a game, a snap.
Right. Xavier Worthy hasn't played. Like you're in it. You know, I think Jaden Alexis is out now, and then Kai Money. Kai Money is another person who's probably caught more passes than most of these dudes. Right. So, and then we go over to the tight end room, and that leads us to this too, right? Like the tight ends, You got people that can play over there. Like Cade Brewer's lost some weight. We expect him to do some things. We think Jarrett Wiley is very, very talented. As long as his blocking's on point, he will get 12 personnel opportunities all day
Braden
long.
Liebrock.
Juan Davis, Gunnar Helm, Jatavian Sanders is in that room. They may just say, if these receivers aren't stepping up, we don't mind going 12 personnel.
Yep, 12 personnel.
Going the Iowa State route and just playing football that way with Bijan and these running backs or Keelan Robinson. And they're already saying they're going to work him in wherever they need to. But these receivers, that whole room has to be on notice. And we're frustrated with them because the parts are good. These are people, all these dudes in the room had offers from big ass schools. There's nobody in the room aside from Kai Money, right? Like everybody when they came in, most recently Xavier Worthy, everybody wanted them in the country. So they've got to get the development aspect up to speed the way we see it with the running backs, the way we've seen it on the defensive line. And if we can get to that point, even when we were a few years ago with Colin and Lil Jordan Humphrey, and Devin Duvernay, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me that.
I'd kill for that right now.
Like I'm good, right? So that's a huge one for us. Lastly, Tran, as we wrap on this, we have one left. We have one concern left for our 2021 season. You want to take this?
Oh, they screwing us. Like if they honestly, if it's a close game, aside from Texas OU, Bowlesby's going to put in the call for like we can't let them go to the SEC with the championship. We can't let OU go. And the same thing is going to probably be for OU. It's just the way how publicly this breakup was and how upset he was. I mean, you saw it in the him sitting right behind Del Conte in the hearing, pouting. I mean, come on now. We've seen Big 12 refs screw us, and I mean, Big 12 refs are Big 12 refs. But if it's a close game and it's a meaningful game,
I agree.
It's going to be rough for us.
Let's be honest.
Be prepared.
All conference realignment aside, SEC stuff aside, Big 12 refs have been historically atrocious.
Yes, awful.
Like an embarrassment to college football. Shout out to Tracy Williams. I know you're watching. I know you'll have a comment about this and complain and text me. I'm ready for you, brother. Now, from a standpoint of adding the gasoline to the fire, which is Texas and OU, I expect OU to get smoked from the refs, but I don't even think it's going to be at the crazy level because people in the conference they're blaming Texas still for everything, right? Like they're mad at OU, but they're spitting on Texas, right? Like it's a different energy. Big 12 refs are bad. Like if it's West Virginia, TCU, it's probably not going to be a well officiated game just in general. The thing though that we've understood as fans is that the bad calls go both ways. Like if you think back last year, the TCU game we went to, there were a lot of bad calls that went in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's like the game is so poorly officiated. Yes, it hurts our product, in my opinion. But at the same token, it's like, well, we gave them that holding call, so we got called for this. At the end, it's almost like a wash. I'm concerned that we may not see that wash.
Yeah.
And I'm with you about close games. Now, here's what I will say though. Don't let that be the excuse for you losing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Don't and what I mean by that is going back to remember the Titans. Leave no doubt. Don't even let the shit be close, bro. Because when refs don't matter is when you're blowing people out. It doesn't matter if you could call for a 60-yard holding penalty because we had that happen even in the TCU game last year. People forget. I think Keontae Ingram on a wheel route caught like a 70-yard pass because we were sitting in the other end zone, and it got called back for holding on the other side of the field. Right? Like and that gets wiped away. But if you're blowing people out, then you have way more margin for that stuff like that to happen. But ultimately, you don't care because it's like we won by 3 touchdowns. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? Like, it's when you get into these dogfights with these teams that you really should be up by 2 TDs on, like Tech or whoever. And now we really, really start. Now we're paying attention to the zebras. Steve Sarkisian, Texas football team. Don't let the refs be a part of this. I'm not saying you can't blow everybody out. I get it. But the games that are close, it may cost them a game. Seriously. It may. We don't know. Like, and I know people are going to comment on here and be like, y'all are crying about the refs already, blah, blah, blah. Bro, this is, like Tran said, these are unique circumstances that they're getting ready to walk into. So that's the list. Our 5 biggest concerns. Just a quick recap, as we always do. Number 5 was how good are our safeties? I think we feel good about Brendan Schooler and BJ Foster as football players. But overall, like Tran said, Caden Stearns, Chris Brown were there. Some of the guys that were the stronger players on our team. Can these guys play up to their talent level? Steve Sarkisian, show me 2021. Got to prove it with the wins as a head coach. He's proven everything else. Can he win games? Pass blocking. We love our run blocking offensive line. Can Kyle Flood get guys up to speed? Can Christian Jones become what we think he's capable of as a left tackle? And then part of that offense, receivers. Guys, that's probably the number one thing on our team that the insiders have been hitting on in terms of the struggles. So can this be addressed? Was it overblown? We'll see. And then Tran's favorite, these damn refs. Don't get in the way. Don't let them get in the way. Don't let them get in the way. But you know how we are. We still going to complain about the refs, Tracy. So we still going to complain. Anything else you want to add before we give them part 2, Tran?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys in a little bit for the 5 things we're most excited to see from this Texas football team during the 2021 season. Guys, remember, horns always up.